And welcome everybody to the Daily Space Weather. I'm your host Dan, aka smAsho Mash. We've nailed another forecast. We're going to show you another coronal mass ejection, and we're wondering, are you safe yet? Let's get to it. And here's a composite one-day video here of the local yellow dwarf. You're looking at 335 angstroms, 193 angstroms, and 94 angstroms all at once. I was going to show you different wavelengths, but it wouldn't work. So that's the view. And this was featured in one of yesterday's thumbnails. We'll talk about that momentarily. Next, we'll talk about the radio flux, which is all the way down to 91. So the 10.7 centimeter radio flux now at 91 solar flux units. A significant drop off. It dropped down 9 points since yesterday's daily space weather video. There's a 1 year chart of it. That one is available for your viewing pleasure at solon.info. And there is the progression since the last solar maximum at cycle 24. And you can see how proportional the radio flux is to sunspot number. We've got some wonderful Helio viewer movies once again, as we do daily. And here's one of them. It's the LASCO C2 as well as the 304 angstroms full disk view. And here's a close-up of the southern hemisphere. And we're going to show you some even more extreme close-ups at the end of the video. Make sure you stay tuned for that. We'll also do a rundown of a whole bunch of other data. So don't go anywhere, as we're looking out for you here at the smAsh News Network. Now, today's Smash Lights segment will have to be integrated into the daily space weather video. So we're going to do it right now. I've got a bit of a public service message to cover here as well. So let's get to that. First of all, we do have a Discord server. If you want to check that out, feel free. It's discord.com/channels/smAshomash. And you can link to that. There is a permanent link at smashomash.com. We'll show you where that's located. We've also got a Facebook group called Entropy Busters, as that is part of the purpose of the daily space weather videos, to break down entropy. So we want the entropy to be out of your science. We want you to understand what entropy is. Perhaps we'll talk about that at a later time. You can also find us at facebook.com/smashomash. And again, you can link to all of that. And let me drop some knowledge. So if you don't follow me on Twitter, you may not see this. But it is also on Facebook. So you can see this post either on Facebook or on Twitter. Let me drop some knowledge. And let me take off my silly glasses here for a moment while I do so. Have you noticed that this thing is hanging above your head like the sword of Damocles? Well, I certainly have. So let's just talk about this quickly here. Viruses aren't anybody's enemy because they aren't worthy. Where SARS-CoV-2 came from is irrelevant. People should be focused on nutrition and cardiovascular health, just like last year and 2018, etc. History will not look favorably upon mankind's pathetic response to COVID-19. However, this is currently still an opportunity for smart people to lead the way. People need the ability to make choices, not to be mandated by ineffective government to do or not do things. The sooner people understand these realities, the sooner this nonsense will end. And it needs to end because society is collapsing. If it collapses much further, a lot of very, very PO'd people will do a lot of very, very bad things. And who could blame them? The institutions on which said society is based have demonstrated not only their ineptitude, but their hostility and detrimental relationship with the people in society. So that's my little public service message for the day. I don't always do that, but it's not your enemy. And I've put the glasses back on here so that you can see through my head into the background. A typical feature here at the smAsh News Network. Again, follow us on Twitter if you haven't. We've only got 105 followers over there, and I haven't really been actively using it until recently. Also, you may want to check out sprs.org. That's sprs.org. There's a whole section there regarding facts on COVID-19, and I'll let this scroll at a slightly higher speed. Just in case you'd like to pause the video, don't worry, we'll be here when you unpause. sort of. What will you be doing for the solstice? In just under 2 weeks, we'll be streaming live at the moment of the solstice, which occurs at 5:02 a.m. and 20 seconds Allentown time. We expect to be the first YouTube channel to wish you a happy solstice. We also put up 2 more smAsho.org Presents the Sun videos yesterday, if you haven't seen those. One of them is part 11. That's from November 30th until yesterday, December 6th. And the other one is just yesterday, a shorter one featuring a close-up of a nice S-shaped solar flare situation. Press like and subscribe if you enjoy the content over at youtube.com/smAshomash. We'll wait for you to do that. And don't forget to press share. Share on your social media. Tell your friends, foes, science noobs, and science pros. We've been forced to set another video to private. It will be only available at BitChute by the time you see this video, most likely if you're watching on YouTube. Although if you're watching on Twitch, you can probably still see it on YouTube. It's been demonetized, which buries it in search, and it will be only available on Twitch. The title is News Crawl Viewer Chat. You decide? You decide. This is SNN. So again, we're streaming live to Twitch right now, twitch.tv/smAshomash. Thanks to our subscribers over there. We would also like to invite all of our viewers to smAshomash.com/forum. There are all kinds of different forums there, one on cosmology, one on Earth and geophysics, free-for-all, and so on, so check that out. You can link to it at smAshomash.com on the homepage, as well as drop out this drawer here to see all of our social media sites. There's exclusive content on all of them. Also check out the stores, Smash Store and smAsho Store. Today's featured product is the Are You Safe Yet Neck Gaiter. Yes, we've designed this painstakingly to mainly not show dirt. We've got the smAshomash.com website down there at the bottom. Are you safe yet? Do you have the sword of Damocles hanging above your head? Again, you can link to all of that stuff, the entire store, and there's one of the stores. That is the first one, the smAsho Store, linkable at smAshomash.com. And here ends today's Smashlight segment. Let's get on to some cosmology stuff. Since the sun is the Rosetta Star of Rosetta Stones, it's the Rosetta Stone of cosmology. And until we understand how the sun, what the sun's made of, how the sun works, etc., the rest of cosmology is up in the air. No pun intended, right? So let's cover something random. I'm going to throw some quantum dice. It's a 1,031-sided die. And today's number is 527. We're going to go to the Neil Gorell's Burst Alert Telescope and look up 527. What might it be? I have no idea. But I'm going to give you a random object to go study if you like. 527 is a quasar, which is a specific type of galactic nucleus where you're looking at the active galactic nucleus right down the poloidal field, which makes it appear very, very bright, exceedingly bright. This one's called 0FGL J1604.0-4904. Here are the X-ray transients from it. You can see it's quite a consistent X-ray source, although it does have a fairly regular periodicity, so that's interesting. Let's see if we can get a look at it on Simbad, and we'll also look at Aladdin Light. So here it is on Simbad. Nothing really very much to see there. Let's check Aladdin Light. It should be a very bright X-ray source. So let's take a look at it on the Chandra. And there indeed you can see that quasar. The Chandra X-ray telescope is always a good choice. Also perhaps the 2MASS. And you can see it's that orangish object there on the crosshairs. Quasar J1603-4904. Go have a look if you like. Leave us a comment, let us know what you think of it. Quasars are one of the more interesting objects in the realm of cosmology. And that's today's cosmology segment. We're going to get back to data now. Since I've successfully nailed yet another forecast here, we'll get to it. Let's look at some more data. And we'll get to the data. There we go. It's the real-time solar wind. And what's been going on here? Well, we saw an uptick in the solar wind density here in the past 14 hours, I'll say. And we're looking at the 3-day chart here. Let me bring up the 1-day chart. And there's the 1-day chart. Whoa. That's the 1-year chart. All right. My mistake. By the way, welcome to the Neo Renaissance. Welcome to cycle 25. Solar cycle 25, starting off in rather spectacular fashion. So we see it actually a waning solar wind density here over the past 24 hours. Could be a weak coronal hole wind stream, as it made it all the way up to, it looks like we saw a reading of 17 protons per cubic centimeter there. At least up to a consistent reading of about 13 protons per cubic centimeter, now down to about 3.7 protons per cubic centimeter. Solar wind speed pretty low here, 383 kilometers a second, and it looks like we have an ongoing magnetic coronal hole connection here. You can see this, especially this area right here. We did see some deep earthquakes kick off also, including a 600 plus kilometer deep quake at Fiji, I believe, and a 6+ magnitude at Chile. So we'll get to it momentarily. The KP index, a measurement of global geomagnetism, is currently at 0. And here's a visualization of the magnetosphere. And you can see some striations here in the pressure caused by changes in the solar wind. That's 4 hours of data. And you can see those changes in the solar wind reflected in that. Next, we'll look at ground geospace magnetic perturbations. We see significant perturbations here over the North Polar region as well as the South. And some pretty strong magnetism. We'll get to the GOES magnetometers momentarily. We saw a global pulse there, right at this moment. That global pulse happening around... Oh, was that data loss? Yep, there's an hour of missing data there, folks. So that's an oddity. Let me just bring it to that moment. There's that global pulse. And you can see an interesting indication of magnetism there south of Australia, as well as off the east coast of the US. So that's a bit of an anomalous magnetic perturbation there. I'm going to let this play all the way through once again. Should be 4 hours of data. And we'll just let that play through there. You can see right about at 8 o'clock, we see some missing data where it goes straight to 9 o'clock. And indeed, it's actually 3 hours of data, not 4. The GOES proton flux has chilled out. And we've seen this wane over the past 2 days down to a background level of proton flux, having seen the first proton event in years. Not a lot of solar flares happening. Now we're looking at photons, high energy photons in the form of X-rays. And we see a dampening down there of the solar flaring activity. One sunspot still facing the Earth, and the likelihood of large solar flares is still there. However, it will go up as that sunspot moves out of the exact Earth-facing zone. It's quite close to center longitudes right now. Next, looking at a star chart to see the moon's approaching its zenith. I like to draw in the ecliptic on my star chart and face it to the south, as I am currently facing the south. And so is my sofa. Here's what's going on in the solar system. There's where things will be in a week. And it looks like the 14th will be a new moon, my favorite phase. And let's take a look at what's going on from stereo A. It's the coronal mass ejection that is cited in the title. Before we do that, let me just check the live stream here and the chat. Thanks to everybody who leaves us comments. We appreciate it. If you'd like anything covered, leave us a comment. We read them all, and we appreciate it. So looking at Lagrange point 5's perspective here from stereo A, we see a coronal mass ejection about to unfold here on the far side of the Sun, as well as Venus, underneath my pointer right there. Nothing to write home about that. Nothing to write home about there, rather. Although there is still a significant possibility of Earth-facing coronal mass ejections, as you see all of these extended regions of plasma here out in the toroidal region. Coming out of the equator and so on, the Earth would be out in this direction. From there, don't be surprised to see some coronal mass ejections happen. Next, looking at the GOES magnetometer. And it looks like we had an arc jet moment there, some missing data. And let me just hit refresh on that. It looks like it might be a little old. Nope. And so maybe we saw some sort of a magnetic spike happen there. Who knows? That's 3 days of data from the GOES magnetometer, which is measuring the magnetism at the F2 layer, or endeavoring to. Next, let's look at the magnetism of the heliospheric current sheet. And the Earth is back in the South Pole current sheet here. We may end up back in the North Pole current sheet in the next 36 hours, shown in green. This shows the Earth's potential field force surface line in orange. Next, we'll look at the line of sight coronal hole field plot. And you can see the coronal hole. The main coronal hole here is the one slightly north of the equator there, which you can sort of see in red. It's a South Pole oriented coronal hole. And here's the same data basically, which also shows you the solar magnetometer information and the solar poloidal fields in green and red. The solar B field shown here in blue. And here's the field plot of the corona itself, just the Sun's atmosphere. It's quite chaotic. And it shows you open potential field surface source lines in black or purple, depending on where they're located. Coronal hole potential field force lines. And closed potential field surface source lines in pink. Lots of those right now on the Earth-facing portion of the solar disk. We don't see very many charging hazards here. Let's look at electrons. There's the 1-year chart of electron. That's another Solon.info chart. And here's the forecast that I nailed. You can see NOAA forecasted this big uptick in electrons, and I forecasted a downtick, and we ended up a slight downtick there. And when the coronal hole wind stream arrives, which should be today or tomorrow, this will be even lower once again than their forecast. Here's the 3-day chart of the electron flux. No warning levels in the past 3 days. And here's a visualization of the whole air column. This will show you up to where a GPS satellite is located in the thermosphere, all the way down to your GPS handset. Some anomalies there over North America and Antarctica once again. No big deal. No major electron flux going on there. And we like when the data corroborates. I'm letting it play through a second time. And here's a little diagram just to sort of show you where GPS satellites are located, where the SDO is located outside the Van Allen belt, as well as where the International Space Station orbits, much, much closer. And here's a diagram of the atmosphere and so on, showing you the F layer there over on the right. That's the F ionosphere layer. You can also see the D region and the E region. The ionosphere is lettered per altitude, so the higher the letter for the ionosphere layer, the higher the altitude. So an F layer of the ionosphere is higher than the E layer and D layer, and so on. Next, looking at a visualization of the ionosphere. The earthquake risk is absolutely not ended. Ionosphere is looking fairly normal here to me. Leave us a comment if it's looking weird to you. Oh, it's suddenly charged up there. making it up to at least 12 megahertz. Here's the latest image coming in at 9 o'clock Universal Time, and we're coming at you early today. Now, we saw Le Piton de la Fournaise, located on the island of Réunion, erupting. Allow me to vanish to show you a little clip here of Le Piton de la Fournaise on the island of Réunion. So it's erupting. We don't always show you those kind of things, but I figured I would throw it in today. Next, we're at Volcano Discovery to see which volcanoes are indeed erupting. Klyuchevskoy producing a 23,000-foot ash plume still. Luatolo, 8,000-foot ash plume above that. Caldera Popocatépetl still erupting down there in Mexico. Volcanic ash observed in satellite at 22,000 feet. 15,000-foot explosive plume of ash above Fuego in Guatemala. Nevado del Ruiz exploding as well. 22,000-foot ash plume there. Sangay exploding. Flight level 190, a 19,000-foot ash plume there. Revenador exploding. 15,000-foot ash plume there. Sabancay, a possible puff emission. Please don't attempt to pole vault the caldera there. And Piton de la Fournaise on the French island of La Réunion has been producing lava flows and seismic activity and so on. A continuous flow of hot liquid magma. And about a 6,000, 7,000-foot ash plume above that. Next, looking at earthquakes of the past 24, we see another extremely shallow quake at Hawaii near Pahala. Let's take a look. It's under Mauna Loa once again. That quake happening at 900 meters above sea level, about 3,000 feet of altitude. Let's get back to the list. Largest of the past 24 was there's another very shallow quake at Hawaii. Let's check the location of that one too. And this one also underneath Mauna Loa, an indication of hot liquid magma up in the lava tubes. We saw a 4.4 in Lakeport, California. Give us a shout out if you felt that quake. Hey, Sam Afif, is that close enough to where you're located to have felt it? Are you able to actually respond to any sort of a message? Leave us a comment. So we see some deep quakes here, such as this 4.6 deep quake at Vanuatu. And the largest quake of the past 24 was just under 100 kilometers, 99.9, at a 6.1 magnitude at Chile. I would say if you're in an earthquake-prone zone, the earthquake risk has not ended yet, especially with this spout of deep quakes. So we saw some significant quakes here and some deep ones, such as this 4.5 in Argentina as well. That one at 121 kilometers. Here's a deep quake at New Zealand, a 4.5 at 281 kilometers. And this one at Fiji, over 600 kilometers depth at a 5.4 magnitude. That would be nearly a 7 magnitude quake if it happened at the surface. If you're in an earthquake-prone zone, plan to be an asset, not a liability in the event of a disaster. Know which building facades will collapse, have a bug-out bag. Be prepared. That's all. Next, looking at windy.com. Here are the pressure maps. And there's where we expect them to be, according to the GFS forecast, at least at 12 noon tomorrow. A series of low pressure systems surrounding North America. And it looks like that low has split in two there over southern Alaska. Check it out. Forecasted to split in two. Again, there's where we expect things to be at 12 noon local time for me, and if you're wondering where I'm located, it's in Lehigh Valley, Pennsylvania. We won't get more specific than that for security purposes. Next, we'll look at the jet streams here on nullschool.net. Make sure we got that on the screen. There you go. There's the jet stream situation in the Eastern World's weather station. And we do indeed intend to do more meteorology videos in the future. It seems like there's quite a market for it. Maybe we'll start doing a series. There's the Western world's jet stream scenario. It looks like some cold air is being injected far into the south-central U.S. by that jet stream. Concentrated jet stream above the southeast. If you're wondering where lightning is striking, or if you hear thunder, check out lightningmaps.org. You'll be able to actually forecast thunder. And check it out, we have an errant lightning bolt here near Richmond. Hey Richmond, you're too far away for thunder to be rolling in, but there was a lone lightning strike there. Convince your friends and foes that you're Thor or Odin at lightningmaps.org. And here's the NASA GOES lightning mapper. Some serious lightning there over southern Florida. A very significant lightning storm. And Florida is the lightning capital of North America, at least, if not the world. I think there might be more lightning in South America, though. Correct me if I'm wrong. So here's the U.S. Doppler radar map. And we see some heavy storms there over Florida. Taking their good old time. And some heavy snow there over West Virginia and Virginia, indeed. As well as Lake Michigan and Illinois. Some snow showers over Illinois, Indiana, and Ohio. Here's what's going on in the cloud layer. Significant cloud bank there, reaching all the way from New Jersey to southern Mexico. A continuous cloud bank, as well as an interesting formation there over Nevada. A stagnant set of clouds there behind the jet stream. We won't zoom in on it, but here's what's going on in the water vapor. And you can see that moist air over, yes, moist. That moist air over Nevada, butting up against that dry air there. And one of the things to really understand is that dry air is more massive. So while the moist air contains the water, since nitrogen, atmospheric nitrogen is N2, is more massive than H2O, to the degree at which there's water as a percentage of the atmosphere, dry air is more massive than moist air. There's the cloud layer, and there's the water vapor. And we're going to zoom in on Florida this time. Shout out to our viewers from places like Oviedo. Shout out to Mothra and Robera. Leave us a comment if you've actually viewed the video. And there's what's going on down there. It looks like that's all of that moisture is going to sort of move at a steady speed here. It might be making a slight bend from a northeasterly route to an easterly route. And by the way, stay tuned, viewers, because we've got bonus features in the form of the solar intensitygram, the colorized magnetogram, and the rest of our Helio viewer movies. And thanks for flying, American Smashways. May that sword of Damocles not be above your head. Please keep your head and arms inside the smash plane at all times. Here are the first of the bonus features. It's the colorized magnetogram to see that this sunspot has continued to degrade a little bit. And I think it's now the only sunspot group. Nope, I stand corrected by myself. There is still a bit of sunspot there on that area as well. And let's go to the Helio viewer movies, as they're pretty epic. And let's see, I think we showed you this one already. It's the southern hemisphere of the local yellow dwarf, along with the earthly scale. Here's me vanishing. Don't let us vanish. Share the content on your social media. Tell your friends, foes, science noobs, and science pros about the channel. Don't forget to watch smAsho presents the Sun series. They are epic. Some of them have music, some of them don't. You figure it out. YouTube.com/smashamash/playlists for all of that. Small active region rising there in the southeast, as well as a close-up of some more active regions. And I've lost track of the sunspot numbers, although that setting area there is indeed sunspot 2786, the largest so far of the solar cycle, and it's been pretty epic. Great view of that. And here are some more close-ups of the same area. Here's 94 angstroms. I'd like to thank our patrons, the true source of funding for the content. Please consider becoming a patron and helping to ensure that these videos will continue to exist, remain publicly visible and free at patreon.com/smAshomash. And here's the final clip. It's the 131 angstroms view of the setting sunspot 2786. It's pretty epic. And it's about that time. Thanks again for tuning in, everybody. May that solar wind be at your back. If you drive and don't drink, and if you drink, don't drive. And since it'll never be now again, welcome to the Neo Renaissance.